The Spider-Man animated series was an introduction to the character for a lot of people, including me, and looking back on it, I couldn't be happier that it was, as I really understood the characters and the world so well. It's definitely not perfect, but it's really solid, and in some ways I think it's actually better than Spectacular Spider-Man. Specifically with Venom and the symbiote, I think they really tapped into it being this creepy, otherworldly parasite. It's very animalistic and it always uses the host for its own bidding. They even incorporated into a few horror scenarios, which I thought was quite cool. But what's most important is that they portray the symbiote as definitively evil. It's not joking around with the host or giving relationship advice. It just wants to use them as a vessel for its own survival and to feed on their negative emotions. And may I also remind you that this is how you correctly adapt the symbiote suit from the comics. Just a classic design, no stupid unnecessary changes just for the sake of it. Stick to what made the suit so popular in the first place. While Spectacular focused on showing how the symbiote affected his life as Peter Parker, the animated series focuses on how it changes him as Spider-Man, which is also very important. He's much more violent and has a lot less patience for people getting in his way. That's probably the one thing I wish Spectacular Spider-Man had more of, because with the animated series, you get a healthy amount of both, and they go quite far with it at times.
Alright, I give up. Rather go to jail than to be a snitch.
Who said anything about jail?
Huh? I don't get it.
You will.
It's like this. I'm through with not getting what I want.
What are you doing? I told you, I give up.
That's funny. I give up too. I give up trying to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
And I don't think any of the movies or TV shows have understood the symbiote on that level since. I also love this version of Venom. He knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man and he uses it, so Peter never feels like he can escape from Venom no matter what his identity is. It's one of the most devious things about him. He can put on this nice guy persona to everyone around him, but on the inside he's a complete maniac. Without these elements of his character, you reduce him to just this big scary monster with teeth, when he can be so much more, and I'm glad the show takes full advantage of that. Not to mention his design too. They give him these red and blue accents to his suit and it really looks nice and fits excellently with the art style. Speaking of the art style, it's a lot more detailed than in Spectacular, where a lot of the characters were simplified to make animating easier. And while the more detailed and realistic looking characters are nice, it comes at the cost of a lot of the animations looking clunky and stiff. But regardless, they're still entertaining nonetheless. The show does a good job at portraying each villain. They all have their own memorable scenes. I especially love the scene where Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin, finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and you get this really tension-filled dinner party where he's just toying with Peter the whole time.
Will you excuse me for a moment?
Make sure it's only a moment, Pete. The party's just begun.
Although it definitely had a very odd take on the Vulture, where he would steal your age to make himself youthful again. He even made Spider-Man old for a full episode one time. It's quite an interesting concept, and I remember actually finding the idea of this quite scary when I first watched it. It's also got a slightly different version of Black Cat, where she transforms from Felicia Hardy using a super soldier serum. I assume this was just done to tie Captain America in, because everything else about her character is mostly the same. And I'm not going to talk too much about the censorship because there's already a million videos on it. But in short, Spider-Man couldn't throw too many punches and there weren't allowed to be real guns. But despite the censorship, one character I was surprised was allowed to go through was Carnage. Obviously he isn't quite as murderous as he was in the comics around that time. Heck, they weren't even allowed to say murder, another product of the censorship. But I swear, this show gets away with some stuff that would guarantee an R rating today. Like Cassidy strapping a bomb to himself and threatening to blow the whole place up. You don't get that stuff in Fox Kids shows today. The writers found a way to tone him down, yet not botch his character whatsoever. He still feels like Carnage, but just not quite as violent as his comic book counterpart.
We could leave you now. We've done our job. But we want a bonus. Stand! Ready for some father-son quality time? Between the two of us, there won't be enough left of Spider-Man to fit in a matchbox, but we'll try, won't we?
Christopher Daniel Barnes is a great Spider-Man voice, up there with Josh Keaton. You can almost tell when a voice actor actually understands the character they're playing, and that's evident here. He speaks more soulfully as Peter Parker, but as Spider-Man he's a bit more of a stern tone, yet is still able to sound funny with all the great quips they give him.
Now, who is that little creep? Some mugger after my money? Heck, if I could find any on me, I'd split it with him. Well, if it isn't a meeting of the Diamond Lovers of America.
It's Spider-Man!
What? Spider-Man? Where? Where? Oh, I just get so flustered when I meet a celebrity. I just don't know what to say.
How about you just say goodbye?
These indestructible manacles contain a powerful explosive. It's set to detonate in 1 hour.
Hey, don't look at me. Maybe you didn't deliver his paper this morning.
Can't you pry this thing off?
You want a trial separation already? I understand, but I'm hurt. Last time I kicked your hide all over this town. Is your learning curve a flat line or what?
His might be. Mine isn't.
Rhino and Shocker. How'd they get together? Computer dating?
What's the matter?
With all my superpowers, I was helpless. It took 3 normal women to save the world.
Anything wrong with that?
No, but I was hoping to be the only one to wear the superhero costume in the family. Of course, it'd probably look better on you anyway.
And he definitely gets very into the role at times.
Get back here, Shocker! Shocker! You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
You don't really see much people talk about the suit in this show. I'm guessing because it's literally perfect. I have no quarrels with the design they went with whatsoever. For the same reason, I have no quarrels with their symbiote suit design, because it sticks to the source material. If you're gonna make a change to a classic design, it better have a reason and not just be changed for the sake of change, because you risk coming out with suits that look like this. But yeah, in short, the suit looks great in this show. Now let's talk about Mary Jane. She only gets introduced towards the second half of the first season, and she's very good. You buy their relationship completely. And just like in Spectacular, Peter has to often brush aside his responsibilities as Peter Parker to be Spider-Man, which often results in him neglecting her. Although who I almost feel more sorry for is Felicia, because Peter just constantly disappoints her, but she always still gives him a second chance and is very forgiving, whilst Mary Jane is a little less forgiving.
Be quiet for a while. Hey!
Parker, I've been looking all over for you. You know, you really made me angry the other night, walking away like that.
But?
I guess you were trying to tell me that sometimes I'm a little difficult. I can deal with that. You know, Parker, you're unpredictable. I find that interesting.
No kidding. Does this mean we can have dinner together?
No, maybe lunch. Ciao.
Peter? Just wanted to make sure you're still alive.
Mary Jane. Oh no, our date. I forgot.
You sure know how to make a girl feel important.
Look, if it isn't too late.
Sorry. In my league, it's 1 strike and you're out.
I'm not big into all the weird stuff they do with Mary Jane though. First she gets kidnapped by the Green Goblin and falls into an interdimensional portal which sends her to Limbo. Then she comes back and they get married, but it turns out he actually married a clone of Mary Jane who then evaporates right in front of him.
His name is anything like the real Mary Jane Watson. She loves Peter Parker more than anything in the world. More than anything.
No! Mary Jane! Mary Jane!
So yeah, it's pretty deep stuff, especially considering that this plotline never gets resolved. It's implied that it would have happened in a 6th season, but that never happened, so technically this version of Peter Parker never found his Mary Jane. This show really did pioneer a lot of great Spider-Man ideas that continue to be used to this day, most notably of which is the whole Spider-Verse concept. This was really the beginning of it, with Spider-Man teaming up with 5 other Spider-Men to try take down Spider-Carnage. Who knows if Shattered Dimensions, Edge of Time, or any of the Spider-Verse movies would even exist if not for this show. I mean, even look at how unique each villain looks from one another. All their designs are so inspired. Speaking of Spider-Verse, I hope he does make some sort of return in part 2, or has a little cameo, kinda like Spectacular Spider-Man did. And if he does have dialogue, I hope he gives some closure to the Mary Jane storyline. Now unfortunately the show isn't great all throughout. The later seasons definitely don't deliver on the same level as the earlier ones. Mostly when it tries to incorporate other Marvel characters in space and stuff, it's just never going to be as entertaining as stories set back in New York. But as I mentioned before, the Spider-Verse storyline is really something great that comes out of the later seasons. And even the episodes that aren't as great aren't so bad that it would make you want to stop watching the show. It still has that classic charm, and heck, even some of the crossovers are actually good, like the Daredevil one for example. At worst it goes to maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10, which would actually be pretty high if it was one of the modern Spider-Man shows. Overall I give the show a high 8 out of 10. The first 3 seasons are definitely a high 9 out of 10, but some parts of the final season bring it down just slightly. But it doesn't change the fact that this was an amazing Spider-Man show. But that's all for this video, thanks for watching.
Sorry about the rain. Seems like you're having nothing but water problems lately.
You know, right now, it really doesn't seem like a problem.